Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this special council meeting of May 8th, 2024 to order. And Madam Clerk, I will request that we please stand for the national anthem. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to begin this evening by reading a safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given. If assistance is required, please see Madam Clerk. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of Town Hall. Please ensure that you place your cell phones on silent or turn them off. And lastly, the Town of Lincoln Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. Closed captioning is available on all of our videos by selecting the closed captioning button on the bottom right of the video. The Town of Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Attawandaronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the First Nation, of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara and the Town of Lincoln stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands that we live on. Members of council are in attendance. Councillor Njima has joined us virtually, and we have regrets from Councillor Mikulik and Councillor Brunet. We also have staff in attendance and we have representatives, we have special guests this evening. We have representatives from Hamilton Health Sciences, Aaron Levo, West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Foundation, Kevin Antonides, and we also have Andrew Smith, and Andrew previously he's chaired so many vital committees for the West Lincoln Hospital, but I'm going to at least point out his vital role in as being the chair of the fundraising committee. But prior to that, a number of years chairing the advisory committee, which was very, very important through the entire process. So we will hear from those gentlemen. The next item on the agenda is amendments. Any amendments to the order of the agenda? Anyone? Declarations of interest. Any announcements, members? You're allowed 3? No? All right, and we have no proclamations this evening. We have no delegations and presentations this evening. We do have one item for consideration, being the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital update regarding renaming. We have in attendance, as I have mentioned to you, Aaron Levo, the VP of People, Culture, and Communications from Hamilton Health Sciences, Andrew Smith, and Kevin Antonides from the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Foundation to assist with any questions that council might have. However, I will ask each of them after the CAO's presentation if they would like to make any follow-up remarks. And so we move on to Mr. CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, who will now provide a presentation. Go ahead, Mr. CAO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and to members of council. I do want to thank our guests that are here this evening. Also, David Silvestri, who is here with HHS as well in attendance, who has been very helpful throughout this entire process. I've got a little bit of background in this presentation. I will try to go through it fairly quickly and get you to really what you want to see, and that is the survey results and ultimately the Q&A. But a little bit in terms of project background. The West Lincoln Memorial Hospital is a Hamilton Health Sciences hospital, and as we all know, it is being rebuilt to accommodate the growing needs we have here in West Niagara. Public support of the new hospital, I think as we can all attest to, has been overwhelmingly positive, as local residents acknowledge the importance of this hospital and what it means to our collective communities. I won't take you through the entire timeline here, but it does date back to 1946. As you can see, the various iterations taking us really to 2018 when there was a submission for a rebuild and the process that occurred with the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care at that particular point in time to where we are now and an expected completion of the new hospital by mid-2025. Take it to the finish campaign. I know the mayor mentioned Andrew and his contribution. Andrew was the chair of the Take It to the Finish campaign, along with members of the foundation, and their campaign goal was $7.5 million, which we are very happy to acknowledge once again that this was reached. In November, the campaign team announced that as a community, we had met the goal and together achieved the $50 million local share to build and equip the hospital. Just as a reminder, the partners in terms of those contributions were the region of Niagara, the 3 local municipalities, Grimsby, West Lincoln, and ourselves, and of course the community and business members. So now to where we stand in terms of the name and I think how that whole conversation came about. After discussing the matter, the mayors of Grimsby, Lincoln, and West Lincoln, as well as regional chair for Niagara, submitted a request to Hamilton Health Sciences to consider a proposed name change to West Niagara Memorial Hospital. Why did we do it then? How did it occur? Really, the redevelopment of the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital facility made for a time to start exploring the idea of this name change. The proposed name aims to better represent the broader community that the hospital serves and the geographic location of the hospital. I think there's been a lot of back and forth on location, hospital name, changing one word, not changing one word, and I think there's a lot here, including the foundation and HHS that can speak to that. But I think it's important to reiterate how we got here and where we were. From an HHS perspective, they were not assessing the site name as part of their rebuild, but rather this came about when the 3 mayors and elected chair raised something and decided to ask how the process would go if we were to look at a potential name change. They did, as council is very well aware, ask HHS to consider a name for the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital site that potentially reflects better the region it serves. The foundation and the 3 municipalities at that time talked about public consultation, talked about when would be the appropriate time to do public consultation. And I think fast forward to where we find ourselves now, we have done that public consultation, and I will be sharing those details with members of council and an associated motion that council can consider following the presentation. Not going to go in depth in terms of what names mean, why we select names, but a little bit of history when we go back to what Niagara Region and West Niagara looked like in the past. It was really split into two counties, Lincoln County and Welland County. And when you look at what is considered the west side of Lincoln County, being Grimsby, that's how West Lincoln Memorial Hospital and West Lincoln came to be. So the new proposed name that was put forward for consideration at that time was West Niagara Memorial Hospital, to, I think, reflect in some ways where we currently sit from a geographic standpoint, and to bring it forward. The thought at the time was that this continues to uphold the recognition of the hospital. You'll see that there's some references there to Memorial and why we kept Memorial. And when I say we, that's a collective we. That's a conversation, again, between the foundation, the three mayors, and the three CAOs that were there from a support perspective. Public engagement. We received a little bit of criticism, I would say, at the beginning in terms of the initial engagement, maybe that it was limited in scope, maybe that we didn't put enough time towards that engagement. And I think at that time I could say, I apologize, we collectively apologize for that. We heard loud and clear following numerous media stories that more public engagement was desired. We did hear from a few residents that reached out as well that also sought more public engagement. This is why we implemented a survey across the three municipalities so that people could share their perspective, their thoughts on that. We did also provide for in-person public input and council dialogue this evening. We did receive feedback from many Lincoln, West Lincoln, and Grimsby community members, and I think we can all say we're grateful for the passion that people have towards the hospital as it is a cherished resource in our communities. So getting you to the survey. It was available digitally. There were hard copies at Town of Lincoln facilities. Our staff were also distributing them to local seniors' homes to facilitate inclusive participation, as well as at our senior center. This was a consistent approach across all three municipalities. We thank everyone who completed the survey and those who provided comments on our Speak Up Lincoln page. So total survey results, or survey responses, 459, 64 questions on our Speak Up Lincoln page. Digital survey responses were 380, and paper survey responses of 79. In terms of the results, you can see 390 were from Lincoln, 69 from other municipalities, primarily Grimsby and West Lincoln, but one each from Dunnville, Pelham, and Stony Creek. Our question was fairly simple. Are you in favor of changing the name of West Lincoln Memorial Hospital to West Niagara Memorial Hospital? And as council can see there, with an 82 to 18% result, that the majority of those that responded were not in favor. So next steps, Grimsby's meeting tomorrow, going through their survey results. I don't know what they are. I don't know what Grimsby is presenting. Similarly, West Lincoln is doing that on May 21st. We've gotten a lot of questions from some members of council in terms of what is HHS doing next. And again, HHS is here. They can speak a little bit to that should council have any questions, but they are expected potentially, depending on what the results are of our three municipalities, to make a decision at their board in terms of whether the name stays as West Lincoln Memorial Hospital or potentially it changes. I will clarify one question as I got it the other day, and that is cost or money, or if signs been purchased and do we need to purchase new signs. The reason the deadline of June, late May initially was set was so that procurement could occur at the appropriate time and that extra monies wouldn't be spent if we bought one sign that said one name and then moved to another name potentially. So no monies have been spent buying signs. that take us in one direction versus another direction. So should the proposed name be approved, it would be effective on the opening of the new hospital in mid-2025. Should it stay the same, once again, mid-2025, you will see that existing name on the hospital. Now I'll open up to any questions, Maryston, or if you would prefer having our other members or other delegates potentially make any comments before collectively we take questions. But I'll leave that in your hands, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. CEO. I'm actually going to, let's fulfill the whole context and then go to the council for questions. So, Andrew Smith, if you have anything to add at this time from your perspective, that I think that would be appropriate spot.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess a couple of things from my perspective with respect to the name change. I mean, as someone who's been involved with the organization for some 20 years now, I think to me it's very important that the name of the hospital truly reflects the community and the community of this hospital that in, I guess, a particular circumstance has been very, very supportive. 1996, the hospital was threatened to be closed. This community saved the hospital at that stage. 2012, the hospital at that time again was threatened to be closed, and this community stepped up and saved the hospital. So to me, a reason to be supportive of the naming of the hospital, and not that we don't believe, the heritage is rich. The heritage is, dates back some 60 plus years. Actually, it's probably closer to 80 years. But I think it's important that, the members of the community support the name that we give the hospital. I think now is the time, if we are going to change the hospital, to do it. And I truly think that the name should be reflective of those who have been so instrumental in ensuring this hospital come to be. And in my opinion, having been out in the community and raising money, having been at many of these meetings where we were trying to, circle the wagons and figure out how we were going to save this hospital, I think it's paying homage to the community today is very important. And again, I don't think, in saying that we're walking away from the support of the community or from the homage that we should give to the community that really made this hospital happen back in 1946 when it was, the clubhouse at a golf course at the time. But I think there's other ways that we can, pay homage to this group. The history of the hospital, within the hospital, there's many, many ways that we can keep that history alive. And I don't know if there's any, that's all I really had to say. I just think I am certainly supportive of the hospital renaming. I am supportive of the hospital in general. I am very happy we're getting a new hospital, and I appreciate everybody's time in considering the name change. Any questions, or would you prefer?
Let's hear everybody, and then we'll do all the questions. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. So, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind coming up now. We're going to give Aaron the last word, since HHS is going to have the last word anyway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm speaking here on behalf of the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Foundation, and I'd like to reiterate Andrew's words as well. The foundation is very supportive of the proposed new name, West Niagara Memorial Hospital. We forwarded that support to HHS, who has the final decision. We wish to support the proposal of our mayors in the region for a number of reasons. As Andrew mentioned as well, we're kind of repeating them here. The municipalities in the region have demonstrated a significant amount of support through our journey to achieve a new hospital in West Niagara. The new name aims to better reflect the geography where the hospital is located, and currently or accurately represents the broader communities that the hospital serves. Including the words West Niagara follows precedent in naming other community infrastructure, such as West Niagara Secondary School. West Niagara will be more readily identified for residents and visitors to the area, especially new residents. Keeping the name Memorial provides homage to our historical past, and there will certainly be a historical timeline in the new hospital in a very prominent area. It will display the rich history of our hospital. And if I can just speak personally as well, I was at the vigil myself, and I think it was 2012. My wife was born in the hospital. Our kids were all born there. I think it's very important. But I was there to save the hospital, not the name of the hospital. So I think it's very important that we remember that we have a new hospital, and that's the primary focus. Going forward, that's what we should be focused on. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And Aaron, if you please.
We're good? Okay. No opinion to add on the subject. Happy to represent my colleagues from Hamilton Health Sciences here this evening. I know several wanted to be here, but we had another very important operational meeting tonight, so they couldn't attend. I would only say by way of comment that, it's really, I think, a testament to the working relationship with the three municipalities in the region, that a question can be raised and we can work on it together in the manner that has been done. It's been remarkable and something that's taken a little bit of time, but for sure I think we've taken a very rigorous approach, and standing here today in front of you and say I'm really proud of the relationship that we've built with the three mayors, the regional chair, members of council, and the CAOs to be able to explore these ideas. So thank you, and thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. And for the record, I just want to reinforce that we did have, as you recall, councillors, a number of tri-municipal delegations at AMO, and I don't believe there was one that Aaron missed. He would come in and for those particular delegations, literally it was a fly-in and a fly-out situation. So he's not here representing a peripheral element of HHS. He's very knowledgeable of a lot of all of the internal strife that went on when you're fundraising, when you're trying to get people's attention, when you're trying to convince the government. And it's not something that comes through emotion. It comes through a tremendous amount of facts and convincing people of those facts. And I want to thank you very much, Aaron, on a personal level, because it was you that was there and you were doing a great job representing the corporation. So thank you for that. So councillors, I think we've got a good context now for you to work from. So if you have any questions at all, then just identify yourselves. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. I do have a couple of questions. I'm not sure who wants to, but thank you all for being here tonight. And I think this is great. You know, the people spoke back and we listened and we're going through this process, which is really important. My question is around a benefactor comes forward next year, 5 years, 10 years, and wants naming rights. What do we have in place? Is there anything in place around that, any kind of policy? We just saw it happen down the road in St. Catharines. So, I mean, we could go through this entire process and somebody steps forward with a huge amount of money and wants to change a name. So I don't know who wants to take that, but that's my question.
Aaron, you're leaning forward.
You look like you're ready, so.
Step up.
Yeah, just correcting my posture, Mayor. Happy to answer the question. I'm not to speak on behalf of the foundation, but you should know we do have a donorship or philanthropic naming rights policy that's approved by both boards of directors. So it's a joint policy that we would have. A couple of comments related to your question, Councillor. In that policy, I'm not sure the exact amount. I'm not sure if my colleagues have that tonight, but we would affix a general magnitude for different areas of the facility, including all the way up to the name on the front of the building. It would be quite a large donation that would get anyone to that point. And although we'll welcome any takers this evening or any other evening who's interested into that conversation, we're not at that place today, but should we be, there is a policy to guide our decision making, and it's made in such a way that it would be commensurate with the donor recognition provided throughout the entire enterprise of Hamilton Health Sciences. So we've tried to balance and have an equitable approach taken as best we can in terms of the different facilities, which we do have naming recognition for donorship all the way from a small unit or ward all the way up to a facility and then to the entirety of a campus or a site. So So that's in place today. I would point out that in terms of the Ministry of Health guidelines, there is a limitation on guaranteeing any donor recognition in perpetuity. So these are time-limited agreements too that tend to be contractually managed as such on a term basis. Again, some of them can be quite long, as the donorship would warrant. But those are some of the parameters we would have. In this case, we're kind of looking at two distinct issues. We're talking about an elective decision on the part of the organization based on community input and partnership to consider a name change based on the geographic region in which the hospital is located, the region it serves, and not a recognition of donorship. We're very beneficial to have the support of the communities in terms of meeting the requirement for the local share of financing and to partner with other orders of government in that manner. But we would just make a distinction between that and donorship or philanthropic contributions.
Thank you very much for that. I think it's really important for any of the residents that are tuning in tonight to hear that and to have that understanding that this is something that could happen in the future. I just have another question, Mary Ston. You know, the hospital means a lot to everyone. Myself personally, I remember being at the candlelight vigil when my children were toddlers in the freezing cold weather. You know, it goes back decades. So I understand the passion and how people feel that ownership to their hospital. They feel that. So I heard you say, Andrew, earlier about honoring the heritage piece, and that was something I came tonight with. I wanted to put forward perhaps something through the heritage committees that could happen in partnership, and in my mind was an interpretive plaque, and I don't know if you're familiar with those, but I just want to put that out while we have you here, that I think it would be really really great for the community. It's displayed publicly so people walking by or coming onto the property can see it. They're very attractive. I don't know if you're familiar with any, but we've done quite a few in the town of Lincoln, and there's some in Grimsby, and I'm sure lots of municipalities have them. Anyway, I just want to put that out there tonight. And tomorrow night at Heritage, that's something that I'm going to be bringing forward. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, if you would take that as a consideration, or no? Going too far? Okay.
I think so, and so we don't want to put anybody on
Okay,
the spot.
fair enough.
But fair enough that you've brought it up
Yeah.
and give Kevin an opportunity to think about
Okay.
it.
All right, thank
And
you.
then you can get together and
Fair enough. Thank you,
work it
Mary
through the
Easton.
committee. Sure. Kevin, did you have any comment to make about the issue of donor, yes, the quantum nature of donation?
Just, Madam Worship, just to follow up on that, Councillor, to follow up on Aaron's comments, is that the naming rights for the Grimsby site was set at 20 million. And then it goes down from there, wings and departments and so on. But that was the threshold for the building, was 20 million.
We have Councillor Murray. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Through you to our esteemed guests, thanks very much for being here. Andrew, you had mentioned your honor. You want to make sure that we're respecting and honoring the communities that fought so hard for saving and rebuilding the hospital. And that's something that I've been hearing from the people that I've been talking to about this, is that they want to make sure that the people who were part of the original hospital aren't forgotten either. And I think that's part of that too, that there seems to be this concern that somehow if we change the name, those donors from way back when will be somehow forgotten. And I wondered if there was, and then Kevin, you had mentioned that there is going to be historical displays so that we can see the timeline of it. I just wondered if there was any consideration for an ability to honor those who are, like, so that there's commemorative plaques in the current hospital. Is there any way that you guys are considering transferring those to the new building or transferring those names to the new building so that people can see the continuity of the community in the new hospital?
So are you talking about a donor wall, Councillor?
Not necessarily a donor wall, more of a recognition of those who built the original hospital.
Okay, all right.
I can answer that, Councillor. Yes, there will be recognition. They will have a donor wall, and it will be brought over from the old hospital. So there'll be a big display in the foyer for that.
That's great.
Exact purpose.
Yeah, that's great. No, because change is hard, and I think people are afraid of losing something through change. So I think that's good to know as well. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Kevin. And next is Councillor Pachariba.
Thanks, Your Worship. Let me just pull this up. So, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. William Shakespeare used this line in his play Romeo and Juliet to convey that the naming of things is irrelevant. I actually donated. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Back in, God, it's got to be before, well, has to be our oldest son, so he was 95. So after he was born, Pam Thurgood came because that was the first vigil we had outside at Grimsby High School. And Pam came looking for food for the event and gratefully donated to her. And she came back in a panic that we needed more and said, take what you want. Take what you need, Pam. Like, we stripped the shelves of every kind of bun and wiener you had. So, and my parents had given money to the hospital in the past. And I think I want to ask a question to staff about the statistical relevance of the survey. It's been 30 years since I was at StatsCan, so just running a quick, 459 people, that's 1.8% of the population. What's the relevance of that? So I'm going to come back to that. But, some of the people that have contacted me, we've been fighting for this for a heck of a long time. We have a world-class facility being built in our town. Talking to Kevin earlier, we should be more upset that we don't have an MRI, right? We should be focusing on big picture things. And I just, you know what, sometimes, and Councilor Murray said, change is hard, but change is inevitable. And you need to move forward. And like we did with the Vineland Public School when it was renamed 20 Valley, we paid homage to the past in the new building. And we've been assured that that's going to happen. And I know the integrity of you gentlemen here that you will follow through on that. So just want to go back to the statistical relevance, Liliana, if I may, because that's your day-to-day thing.
Liliana? I wasn't sure where you were. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, to the councillor. These community surveys that we conduct through Speak Up Lincoln, through our facilities, they are not necessarily statistically, statistically accurate. They don't necessarily represent that statistical analysis that you would get through an Ipsos Reid survey or a Leger survey. But that said, compared to some of the other surveys that we have conducted through Speak Up Lincoln, this is one of the highest response rates. So there was significant engagement on the survey. So, and it was well promoted and through all of our various channels. But again, statistically, it wouldn't necessarily represent a scientific survey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and if I may then, and you know what, I just think we need to focus on the ability to go there and get service. And we're going to have that. And like anything, it's the doctors and the nurses and the volunteers and the foundation which make the facility. The name is just on the wall. It's static. So, for what it's worth, those are my thoughts. But thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Reimer, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Thank you, Aaron and Andrew and Kevin for coming tonight and for sharing this evening with us. Very similar thoughts to Councillor Pachariba. And I guess I would address a question to staff as well too, about other municipalities. In the past, we have been a data-driven decision makers, and something like this, there's a lot of heart there's a lot of heart that comes into it too, I believe. And for myself, I'm sort of amazed, and I don't amaze very much. I'm amazed at these results because in the community, the last month and a half, I've had to, engage people in this conversation, and overwhelmingly is the response has been they're just happy they have a hospital. That's the first thing that comes out of their mind. And it's not indifference to the fact that it's a name. I mean, they're taking pride in the hospital, but it's that heart feeling that we got a hospital for my grandkids, for my children, for, insert person here, right? Like so I think those people are tied to the community, and so I'll ask the question, because I'm one who doesn't like to beat around the bush. But out of amazement of these numbers, do we believe, and Liliana, this is to you, through you, Mayor Easton, would the other municipalities be somewhat the same? And I know like you said, this is a higher turnout, but we do have, when you think about total population and the actual number, that would be, putting forward their thoughts on this, I guess, and we're also countering that with, we have these people up here who are representing, organizations that are the lifeblood of the hospital, and so it's just that it's the back and forth of it. So if you could shed some light on that, Liliana, through you, Mayor Easton.
Certainly, go ahead, Liliana.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, to the councillor. From what I'm hearing, I don't know the exact results from the other two communities, but I'm understanding that the results are very similar to the ones that we've received. But again, they, as I mentioned to Councillor Pachariva earlier, they aren't statistically significant. So they really are just a reflection of those who took the time to fill out the survey.
Thank you. And a follow-up question, if I may, Mayor Easton, and if I could address Aaron from Hamilton Health Sciences, the responses that you get from and I understand, someone will be at all three council meetings. Is there a, from the people where this, goes to somewhere else to make decisions? Is it strictly the yes and no, or is there some commentary and comments that come from, council that will be, relayed or conveyed to those people, or how is the information you receive tonight going to be transferred?
Yeah, thanks very much for the question, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. Ultimately, any decision of this nature, changing a facility, would be at the discretion of our board of directors. So certainly speaking as a staff member in service of that board, we take a balanced view, an objective view of what's transpired, summarizing as the CAO has tonight, what brought us to this point, what are some of the empirical facts, quantitative, qualitative. Our board meetings are certainly open to the public for delegations, but were we to make a recommendation to them on this topic, it would include a summary of the facts. And we may make a recommendation one way or the other based on things, but I don't want to speculate tonight. We would try to give them as much good guidance as we can, recognizing it's their prerogative ultimately to decide.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Mayor Easton.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Murray, would you take the chair? Thank you very much.
Certainly.
We're the first municipality to address this issue. So I do have a couple of comments that I want to make, which also include my own story about West Lincoln Hospital, because I don't want anybody to have any impression that I have some kind of an arm's length relationship with that hospital. So first, let me tell you that I wasn't born there, but when I was 11, I spent almost 2 months in that hospital. And it was pretty small, very much a small rural hospital for sure. They didn't have a children's ward, and so I was in this room all by myself. I had rheumatic fever, and I had to stay in bed all that time. I couldn't get out of bed. So I think that's why I probably decided that I should be a nurse. I became intimately familiar with what nurses did at that time. When I graduated from St. Joe's in 1968, I went back to West Lincoln to work. And in those days, where the coffee shop is now, that was the emergency room. And the room next to it, I guess where the gift shop is, that was the fracture room. And where the pharmacy is, that was the operating room. And that's my jurisdiction, that's where I worked. So I worked at the hospital for 7 years, and we opened up the operating room, we opened up the emergency department, and it was really a big deal. And I remember those days, the pressure that was on the foundation and the auxiliary to raise money. It was incredible. And for the first time as a nurse manager, I was given this pot of money. And I'll tell you, I was going to make sure there wasn't a dime left, because somehow I knew there was not going to be any more money. So I was very careful in the way that I spent that money. So I went off and worked in Hamilton, and, you know, I certainly heard everything that was going on. And sometimes it breaks your heart when you've had that experience and the way people work, and the cohort of physicians that worked in that hospital and what they were like to work with as part of the staff. It was very emotional, and I knew how rich we were as a community to have that service. And when I had my son, and I was quite ill after, it was physicians from West Lincoln who went to the Hotel Dieu Hospital in St. Catharines to check on me, to make sure that everything was okay. So that has absolutely nothing to do with anything except my own emotional attachment and how important it was for me to make sure that this hospital was built. It was a big driver. And for Councillor Foster and myself, and I believe Councillor Witteveen, councillors from Grimsby, we knew that this wasn't a matter of going door to door entirely and asking for money. We knew that there was a political motivation behind this, the building of this hospital, that had never, ever been repeated. We'd never had it. Before, you could jump up and down, you could wave flags. Aaron's making his head go up and down slightly because he doesn't want, but he knows what I'm talking about. It was possible to sway government. This was not that kind of a fight. And so there was a lot of politics. And so if anybody believes that we've overstepped, and let there be no mistake, I may have written the letter, but there were 3 mayors involved in this, as 3 mayors often do many things. We were providing leadership. Where did the message go? It went to the foundation. They validated it. And then eventually we knew it was going to go to HHS. We weren't making a decision. We were providing leadership. Why? Because we knew that as a region, we had well exceeded the 20 million. And so we had the right to apply and have that name reflect the whole story. I well understand where people are coming from, absolutely. And undoubtedly, the process could have been better. It could have been. However, we knew that HHS was going to be sending it back. They were going to say, have you consulted with the community? And if we hadn't, they were going to tell us, and they did. So it has been a bit of a road, but the intentions were always pure, and they still are. And I believe that tonight really is the beginning of a celebration of what has been achieved and what this hospital is going to mean to us in the future. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. This is very, very important. I want to thank the media for being here and for the councillors asking questions and being part of the process. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO, for reflecting the process that we followed and what had some of the history behind that. Thank you very much. All right, I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Russell. That council receive and file as information the presentation regarding the hospital renaming, and that council endorse the survey results received from the community to maintain the current name. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Dustin, are you going to put it up on the screen?
It's not showing up on my screen.
Okay, we'll try it one more time. Okay, so Madam Mayor, the vote, or sorry, the motion rather, I can open to voting.
Okay, there we are. That council receive and file as information the presentation regarding the hospital renaming, and that council endorse the survey results received from the community to maintain the current name.
Councillor Rajima, can you please give me your vote verbally?
In favor.
Thank you. And I will close that vote. And Mayor Easton, that carries 4-3.
Thank you very much. We have no previous council minutes to approve or any recommendations from committee, as this was a special meeting. We have no notice of motion. There are no reports from municipal officers, no matters to consider under confidential folder, and we have no bylaws to approve. I have a motion moved by Councillor Murray, seconded by Councillor Timmers, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2024-39, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024, being read a first, second, and third time. That bylaw number 2024-39 be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thank you, and the vote is now open. Councillor Rajima, if you're not logged into the vote, can you please give me your vote verbally?
In favor.
Thank you. And I will close the vote. Mayor Easton, that carries.
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any further comments? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima, seconded by Councillor Pachariva, that the special council meeting on May 8th, 2024 be adjourned at 1850 hours.